from innovative technology to individual activism and political leadership. There are many ways to effectively face and deal with climate change and environmental issues. The world just recorded its hottest day ever, the latest of many signs that green, sustainable actions need to be taken sooner rather than later. Once a year, the world's leaders meet for the COP, where promises are made for the cameras, documents signed, but little action is taken. Meanwhile, away from the spotlight, legislation that could have a major impact on our futures is happening. The European Union is imposing the world's first carbon border tax, affecting products and companies across the globe, and potentially affecting households here in Israel too.
Carbon is used in some way in almost every industry in the world. It's one of the most important elements to life on the planet. Humans use it to produce everything from fuel and batteries to plastic and diamonds. Now, carbon dioxide, or CO2, accounts for about 76% of all greenhouse gas emissions, the main cause of human-caused global warming.
The EU carbon border tax is a new and bold concept. It could be the beginning of a new era in global trade, the first time a major economy has found a way to combine climate and trade policy.
Carbon pricing is one of the most effective, if not the most effective tool to cut emissions in a way that nudges the polluters, either if they continue to pollute, to pay for the pollution, or, and this is the interesting part, nudges the participants into innovation.
European companies are already taxed for their CO2 emissions. Now they want the rest of the world to pay too. The EU will look at the carbon pollution generated by foreign companies, including Israeli companies, and tax them accordingly when importing. For now, the tax will be applied to certain goods such as iron, steel, fertilizers, and electricity. Companies in the US and Israel will pay a price, but products made in China, India, or other developing countries will probably become even more expensive due to the lack of environmental legislation in those countries. For any country that deals with the EU, this is a game changer.
It will affect us. The EU is a major important trade partner for Israel. And what it means is that we have to have our carbon pricing in place. We have no choice. Okay, this border tax will be applied, like it or not.
And the hope is to see a ripple effect across the globe.
It's up to us whether we charge the carbon pricing here and take the revenues to the state's treasury, or we pay this tax to the EU, so the EU citizen will enjoy these revenues. And this calculation is being done by every trade partner of the EU currently in the world.
Israeli companies are also bracing for the new requirements that are starting this October already and will slowly be phased in over the course of 9 years.
You will need to think green, otherwise you will be out of the market. And probably that's the only thing we need to do, because the emergency of the situation is such that if we don't put that pressure on the planet, on companies, on individuals, on institutions, on governments, then probably nothing will happen and it will be too late.
Israel is expected to impose its own carbon tax over the next several years. The tax is expected to cover around 80% of the country's greenhouse gas emissions. But at least for a time, this and the EU carbon border tax will raise the prices on products until the playing field is leveled. So the Ministry of Environmental Protection is currently looking at developing forms of compensation for both companies and households. The new requirements are forcing companies to think in creative ways.
This tray of McDonald's is typically made out of oil-based plastics like polypropylene. This tray is made with UBQ. UBQ is 100% made of residual waste that is going to landfill. So we're using materials that nobody wants. The chicken bones, the banana peels, the hamburger leftovers, that material, UBQ material, will be sold to the plastic industries to create sustainable, bio-based, climate-positive materials. This tray of McDonald's is the first tray in the planet that is climate positive or carbon negative.
The truth is that carbon emissions already come at a high price that we, you, me, and the planet are already paying for. A carbon tax means the emitters will have to cough up more money, essentially encouraging a change from fossil fuels to less polluting energy sources.
And while it may take time, change is coming. The question is, will it be fast enough?